Hey everybody, so I have another little update video. Not a whole lot's been going on, but the other day, Friday, and it's Friday, yeah, today's Wednesday, so this past Friday, we knew that there'd be a lot of bad storms coming through the area, whatnot, especially going into Saturday, so we were well aware of that. But then, like, in the AM hours of Saturday morning, there was all these like indications that there's going to be like tornadoes and whatnot. It was mainly in West Tennessee, but it was coming in our direction. So and we knew that there were a lot of storms that would be coming through the area. So I guess about 2 a.m. Saturday morning, started taking everything pretty seriously. I think tornadoes had already come through like the Memphis area, and they were heading towards Dixon, which Dixon is probably about 50 miles west of Nashville. So, you know, we were starting to get serious about it. And so tornado warnings were being issued for Nashville, and on the news, like the forecast was talking about like they're headed towards North Nashville and downtown, and like north of downtown, which North Nashville is north of downtown. But yeah, so they were giving out street names. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, not cool, but I mean, like, for where I'm at, we're okay. They even said something like South Nashville, like, you know, you don't have to really worry about this, or don't worry, you're not in any of this at all. Basically, they're telling us don't worry. So why not? Like, I couldn't even get one of the news stations because the weather was so bad that my antenna wouldn't pick it up. Like, one of the main stations I usually watch, it just couldn't get reception. So I was switching between two news stations, and one of them had a weatherman who we like grown to love. Like, he's been on the air for a really long time now for Nashville standards at this point. So I was like chilling, thinking, oh, Leland Statham, that's his name, has got this. He's got this. He's telling me I'm okay. I'm not going to have to worry about this at the moment. So, and I already had, you know, again, knowing that bad weather was coming, potential tornado threats, blah, blah, blah. I had already packed up some stuff. I had a whole list of things in my head that I was going to take down to the basement if need be. But I actually had like my little Betsy Johnson, or one of my little Betsy Johnson backpacks. I had my purse. I had my safe box. Like, I have a fireproof safe box that I have like all my, well, most of my important documents and the majority of my cash that I have at home in. And so I had that all packed up. I had everything. Like, I had a whole set of things. I even had a box set up for the cat. And I had the cat with me up until just a moment before he said downtown, and then there's so much. So the wind had been blowing. You could hear the wind blowing like crazy all night long. I mean, that's nothing unusual when it comes to storms and whatnot. And you could hear like a little bit of thunder in the distance, but then all of a sudden, like, the thunder just started rumbling, and I don't remember it ever stopping. And the cat got freaked out, jumped down. I was hoping that she would run to my closet, because that's usually like her safe spot. I don't think she did, because I saw her like going back and forth in the hallway. And anyway, so this rumbling sound is coming. They're saying downtown, you know, this is your chance, like, this is a time where you take precaution, go into your safe spot, and then all of a sudden, like, wind howls even more, rumbling keeps going, can't even hear the tornado sirens at this point going off anymore. Like, it's just so much commotion going on outside. And then the house, like, it feels like a tree just fell in on the front of the house, because, I mean, we got a tree out there, and it wouldn't be unusual if something had happened for the tree to come pew, forward, because it shook the front of the house. Like, I felt my room shaking. You could hear in the living room, the other front room, you could hear stuff rattling in there, and my dad's like, he's saying, I'm hearing noises I've never heard before, and I've never, like, there's noises I've never heard before. Like, when there's really bad storms, winds, whatnot, we've heard it all around here. I've talked about this before in another video or two, about how, like, when he was younger, like in the 70s or 80s, well, 60s or 70s, there's a tornado that came through our property and hit the barn that we used to have. And it hit only the barn on the property, which was a miracle in its own right that it didn't hit the house. Anywho, so, like, he witnessed that happening. So, I don't know, like, there's so much going through my mind at that moment. But when the house shook and all the noises were going on, and it sounded like rain was like pelting down, like it sounded like hell, but later on I didn't see any signs of hell. It was just so much loudness, so much chaos going on outside that you could hear. So electricity went out like that. So we had flashlights ready, and we were like, okay, get our stuff, go down to the basement now. And it's just like, grab what we can and book it to the basement. So that's what we did. So he has one of those emergency weather radio things that you can like hand crank and whatnot. So we went down to the basement. I had my phone in my purse. And when we get down to, like, there's an area of the basement that's like the safest spot to be if there's ever a tornado. So we're like crouched down there. Well, not really crouched, but we're standing there in the dark in the basement, which is not pleasant when it's completely dark. It's kind of creepy. But okay, so Kat was upstairs. I was like, I guess I'll leave the door open just in case. So like, Tukey, get in the closet or come down in the basement, whatever, I don't care, just get to a safe spot. And so, not knowing what's going on, like, I pull up Facebook on my phone, because that's where like the most of my updates are. Like, at least I've got like the news people I'm following on there, and then the neighborhood groups, of course. And so right after we get down there and I pull out my phone, I see a little update from 3 minutes prior that says, from the local group that I'm part of, that says, tornado on my street name, take cover immediately. I'm like, hold up, what? So and at that very moment I read that, everything got really quiet outside. And so that's probably like, we have tornado warnings, which there's tornado watches, which are like potential for tornado, and then tornado warning when they've like already spotted tornadic activity or potential tornadic activity going on, and that's when you want to take it super serious. So ever since 98, when we had the big tornado that came through in 98 around Nashville, like, we've been taking, this has been going on since then. So sometimes you kind of take it as a grain of salt. Now last year in 2020, May 2020, or not May 2020, that's when the derecho came through. March 2020, that's when the tornadoes hit, and like my dad's friend's house got affected by that. His son really was in the midst of that. That was a miracle that he was able to walk from that. But it just, things are getting so wild here. So I'm seeing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, like in that moment I'm like, I've never taken one of these tornado things as serious as then, because I was like, what just had, like, was that it that came over the house? What happened? So I'm like, oh my gosh. So when, like, during that moment when it's like totally quiet outside, like, it's just dead silent outside, and I'm like, oh, this is it, we're not gonna have a house. It's gonna hit and we're not gonna have a house. And so we're just kind of standing there in silence, and he has this little weather radio, and it's just saying, like, it's that automatic voice that says, like, you know, Davidson County, you are in like a warning right now. It's like going through the different counties in Tennessee with the different, like, you're in tornado warning for following counties, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh gosh. I'm like, we can't get anything else on the radio other than the automated voice. Like, every radio station switched over to the automated voice. So whether or not you had a weather radio, as long as you had radio like access, that's all you heard. So just no actual details other than tornado warning. And then it went to severe thunderstorm warning. But so I was just on that post, on that Facebook post. That's where like a lot of people in the neighborhood group were. Like there were several posts going on at the same time on that neighborhood group, but that one with my street name in particular was like where most of the activity was going on, because we, like, there are other people in my area who were like on there like asking, you know, what's going on, because they all, electricity went out, and electricity went out all over Middle Tennessee. Like I know pretty much all of South Nashville, I know North Nashville, Madison, yeah, west of here, like all where it traveled west of here, like without power. So nobody really knows what's going on, at least in this little group posting. And then somebody, like, we were all asking, is it safe to come out of our spot, because we don't know what's going on with the actual like detailed weather forecast other than the warnings, which that doesn't tell us anything. Like, is it safe for us to come out from a shelter? So somebody finally updates it and said, yeah, it's safe to come out. So come out, blah blah blah. No electricity. We didn't get electricity back on until Saturday night, and we got ours on at 9:40, which we found out, like, I was watching the group again, and there's down the street from me where my family's, the street named after my family, that whole area, they got their electricity back on like hours earlier. So I was like, oh, that's a good sign. It kind of gives me a little hope. It's like, but then ours got restored like 3 hours after the fact. Then there's like 90,000 people in Nashville without electricity. So yeah, that is pretty bad. We almost lost everything in our freezer and refrigerator, and I had to go out to my car and spend like a good hour and a half trying to charge up my phone, which, I mean, I got it to charge about 40%, no, 30%, 30 or 40% from where it was, which kept me going for the rest of the day until electricity came back on. But the bad thing was I had to go to work Sunday morning. So, but fortunately, it came on just in time, because if it had been out much longer, I'm sure that we would have really lost everything in the freezer and refrigerator. But what had me scared, like, I can find, is just like the instance of the derecho, which our electricity was out for 3 days at least during that time. And I really didn't, like, I'd have to go out to the car and listen to the radio and charge up my phone, and I couldn't find out anything that was going on during that time, other than that's when the Rona first started. What is my, oh my gosh, my dad's talking and I don't know. I can't even hear myself talk over him, and I've got my door closed. He is so freaking loud. But what was I saying? Oh, about the derecho. So during that time, that's when the Rona was in full effect. We were on lockdown during that. That's when murder hornets were going on, like when they first started this whole murder hornet thing. So I didn't know what was going, like, I couldn't find any local news on the radio about what was going on, and with my phone dying and nothing. I mean, I was really in the metaphorical dark then, and also in the literal dark at night during that time. So with this, I kept going on, like, I'd look on Facebook and I'd look on Twitter, and especially on Twitter, I'd type in my street name and like trying to find updates about like what happened in the area, because all that kept coming up was like people saying that there was a tornado on my street, or there was a tornado located right off my street, like a tornado hit off my street. Which so I was like, I was even asking on Facebook, I was like, did a tornado hit my street? Because there's no, I can't find any confirmation of it, but it's people saying that they heard. And I kind of want to like go on and read now, because it had me tripping. And spoiler alert, it wasn't a tornado. I found out, the only information I could find out was that it was straight line winds. However, there were confirmed tornadoes. A confirmed tornado in the area of like where a friend of mine lives, North Nashville, Madison. Confirmed tornado, like our another family friend who lives out in Mount Juliet, he saw the actual funnel cloud over the lake, which there was a tornado that struck around the lake over there. So that was because he has his office out in our area, and he went around, he like the power poles where his office are like at a huge intersection here in Nashville, and they were all like leaning over sideways, and that's where a lot of the issues were with our electricity. That's why it knocked out, so like that's why so many people in there, well, everybody in the area didn't have electricity, but that was like the main, like, I guess, crossroads of where a lot of the wires run. But let me see if I can find some of these updates. Since I don't cuss, I'm going to have to censor these, but let's see. Okay, so one person says, my street area power's out. I'm in my safe space, but I can hear things breaking outside. Once this passes, if I can, I'll send pictures. Another person says, I heard tornado and my street name, and immediately shot that up because that's a little too close for me. And then somebody says their power's out in my street. Somebody talking about the traffic lights being out on my street coming off the interstate. This is one of my favorite ones right here. Dead dog. I got up off my couch and went to my bed like, oh, it's a warning. And they said something touched down off my street. If I'ma die, let me die comfortably. I ain't go to sleep till 6 a.m., which I feel that. I didn't go to sleep till after 7 a.m. After everything calmed down and it was just storming outside. That's when I looked out the front door, and I thought maybe we have like a little mini trampoline. I may post some pictures on here. I mean, I only got a couple of pictures, but we had a little mini trampoline, and I thought maybe that's what hit the house because it moved like just like 3 feet from where it had been, but like in front of our front door. But there's another box down, like a little light cardboard box down between it and the front door, so I figured maybe that's what had hit the house. But if it had hit like, or hit, it would have hit the door from the wave because it kind of traveled diagonally towards the door. So I figured if it hit anything, it would have hit the door, and it would have probably broken the door, like a glass door. And so I really don't think that's at first what I thought hit the house. And then I thought maybe it's a porch swing, but the porch swing, like when it hits the house, it'll shake my room and it'll be like loud. I've been through this hundreds of times, but it doesn't ever shake the house to the point to where it feels like the house has something crashing down on top of it. And of course the living room doesn't, like, stuff in there doesn't shake when the porch swing hits the house. So and then we found like one of the rocking chairs had blown from, it was up against the house, and it had blown out almost off the porch, like it had gone forward. So I'm really thinking it was the winds that shook the house, because other people say that the wind really, like, they felt like their house had moved from the winds. So I think that's what I heard. And then, like, I was afraid maybe, like, you know, trees would come crashing down outside, but fortunately I don't think any more trees have fallen over on our property. It's just the same old ones that are just kind of already leaning from previous storms. But yeah, my car was okay, trash can blown over, but we found stuff that had been on the front of the house. Like, they kept saying straight line wind, but somewhere else I saw something about rotation, like there'd been like rotation spotted on my street. And so I really think there was some kind of rotation, because the straight line wind, everything is, you know, will blow in the same direction. Usually in our case, hold on. So usually in our case, straight line wind will blow to the corner of our property where that barn had been at one point in time. But this time we had stuff blown that way. We had stuff blown from the front porch all the way to the back porch. So either it went over the house 180 degrees or it went around the house in either direction 180 degrees. We had something in front of our garage that went back, and it had to, like, it was a huge cardboard box, so it had to have flown over my, like, one of my cars and through the tree to land where it did behind the chicken house. And then we had a bucket that had been on the front porch that had blown all the way back over to behind the chicken house, so that blew even further. And then we had like, it almost looks like stuff went flowing like this way, towards this way, and also towards this way, because stuff at the other end of the porch went back towards our neighbors, like in between our house and our neighbor's house, like a good like 90 some odd degrees at least, because it would have landed like, yeah, where I found, well, I don't know, I'm bad with this, but anyway, it did a good, like, yeah, quarter turn from where it was to start with. So, and like other stuff that, again, it looks like it went whoosh, not like all in one direction. It just looked like it flowered out and over. So I just, I don't know. Over all this bad weather for December. Like, this is like March weather, like March, April, potentially May weather. So, and that derecho thing that came through, they said that that was straight line wind. But, and that, like, it felt like a tornado coming through at that time. I thought that was pretty bad. The only thing that threw me off about that time, and also this time, was that I didn't hear the train noise. They always say it sounds like a train. I always wondered what that meant. If that meant like the whistle of a train, or if that meant like the chugga 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 chugga. And my dad was saying it was like the chugga 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 chugga, like this engine sound of a train. So, and that kind of made me wonder, like, that thunder I kept hearing that didn't stop. Like, that made me wonder, is that like what it sounds like? But at the same time, that didn't sound like a train either. It just, again, doesn't sound, it sounded like thunder that just wasn't stopping. So, I don't know. But as far as we know, no confirmed tornadoes, just straight line wind. But that was the most terrifying straight line wind. I remember, like, back when Hurricane Katrina came through, the house rumbled really bad when all that was going on, like after it had blown through, and we had expected that, like the aftermath of all that hit up here, and that blew a bunch of shingles off our roof. Like, that blew up the edge of our porch roofing, just like peeled up and blew a lot of shingles off. So, and I don't think those winds were nearly as bad as the winds that came through the other day, which that had me shocked that like everything around here was intact, other than the stuff that just kind of blew out in the yard. But everything attached to the house and everything that was rooted in the ground stayed in place. So that alone was just like, I'm totally grateful for that. Because, like, you know, that moment that I was in the basement and they said tornado on my street, take cover immediately, that was the moment where I thought everything was done for. But anyway, so that's my long tornado update. It seems like every time I update, it's always about like some kind of big tornadic or bad storm that's come through that we've fortunately survived. So, I don't know, but there was a lot of devastation in other areas. Like, I know a lot of people lost their lives in Kentucky, I think Illinois, and Arkansas. Like, I know there's a nursing home in Arkansas that got demolished. The Amazon warehouse, I think it was in Illinois that got demolished. And then southern Kentucky was hit really hard. I know that night, like, or that morning, within the couple of hours of everything happening, there's already a statement being issued by is it the governor, Boshears of Kentucky, who said that, like, at that point in time they estimated 50 people had lost their lives, and that's before like the sun even really came up, or before it really got light outside and you could see. So there's no telling how. I haven't heard it update, but I imagine that was way more than 50 people. So that's really sad. Last I heard, like, they were estimating 3 people here in Tennessee, but I imagine that probably went up as well. So it's just like, you never know. Like, at this point, like, I was just kind of jaded to the whole tornado warning thing. Like I said, like, we've heard it so many times and never had issues with it, but I just you just don't know anymore. And that's Yeah, and like I said, like when I was watching TV, they were talking about north of Nashville and downtown, which downtown is like good 9 or 10 miles away from here. But I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be like 9 or 10 miles. I guess the outskirts of downtown would really be more like 8 miles away from here. But central downtown would probably be about close to 10 miles. Not that it really matters, just logistics. So I don't know. That's like last year when they said that it was hitting, I think it said it was hitting downtown, and at that moment they were saying that on the news it got really bad here too, and our electricity went out thin. So I guess I got to be more kind of put myself in the position of downtown. But usually, like, we look for a specific location. There's a few locations that we look at when we're like in severe weather, like when to take shelter, and like usually that's like Brentwood, Antioch. Whenever they say Brentwood and Antioch together, we know it's going to hit southeast Nashville, because that's just all, that's like the whole Brenty Antiochville is what they call it, a whole area where Brentwood, Antioch, and Nashville all come together. And that's southeast Nashville. So yeah, I'm just going to cease talking about this because I've been going on about this for an extremely long time. I think I'm going to do a couple other videos. I recently bought roller skates. I think I'm going to do a little video about that. And then I think I'm going to do a little video about my knitting and crocheting stuff. So I hope everybody's doing well, because times are crazy out. Like, regardless of weather, times are just crazy in general. So I hope everybody's safe and well, and that we can make it through Christmas and the New Year's without any more chaos going on. I really do, because this is just what's going on with the world. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well, and thanks for watching.